Hey guys, we'll get started in 2 minutes. All right, everyone, we can get started. Welcome back to the Seven Eagle Academy. Today, we are fortunate enough to be joined by Brian Victorero. Brian is a veteran who served 13 years with the United States Navy as a Director of Information Technology and Cybersecurity, protecting critical systems, leading teams in pretty high-stake environments. Today, Brian is a leader with KPMG, one of the largest professional services and consulting firms in the world. He's been with KPMG for about 2 years, acting as a Director of National Information Technology and Security. First off, Brian, I just want to say thanks for coming on board today. We appreciate you taking the time, come here and share your story with our community of veterans. I know you've been on before, but just give you a little recap of what we're doing here. We have about 108, 114 transitioning service members, men and women, looking to get started their next career post-military. Besides that, this will be streamed to about 900 people on our different social media accounts to our Academy members. So for Academy members, if you have any questions during this call, just raise your hand in the chat, use the chat function, and I will call on you when you have a question. Other than that, without further ado, Brian, can you tell us a little bit about your time in the military, your time in the Navy? What are some of the roles that you played, places you visited, and what you enjoyed most about your time in service?
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate the invite to come and speak to everybody. As I'm sure all of you will do when, as you're separating, putting what your rank is on your LinkedIn page or your public profile really doesn't mean a whole lot to most employers. And so I was a submariner for just under 14 years. I was a senior chief, so an E8, and I had actually just gotten selected to be a warrant officer in the Navy, and going over into the information technology realm. On a submarine, I was, did a lot of different jobs. I joined the Navy as a fire control technician, which really just means I was a ship's tactician and shot weapons at people. In fact, my job would have been to do what just happened overseas, the first torpedo launched, in a conflict since World War II. That would have been my job to place that ordnance on target. I ended up separating because I had just a medical issue that was incompatible with the submarine force, and so from there I left the Navy to work in the defense industrial base, which I think is very common because of the direct correlation of security clearance and capability sets. And I got the opportunity to be in a lot of different areas of leadership until I joined KPMG today.
Awesome. Looking back on your military career, what kind of leadership lessons from the Navy still guide you today, would you say?
I would say there's probably three things that I use from the military every day. One of them is being able to communicate and talk with a whole lot of different people from all walks of life, all around, all around the country, and understanding how to, interact with them, what motivates them, what are their intrinsic and extrinsic motivators, so that you could accomplish the mission, and being able to adapt your leadership style to different people. And that is a skill that becomes really, really valuable when you leave the military, because all of us, while we were in, we had a very common extrinsic motivator, right? We always wanted to get home, right? So when you're on deployment, you're on mission, it was be safe, get home. And that is something that is very unique into the military. And that extrinsic motivator doesn't exist in the civilian world. But we also all had soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen that, may have needed a little bit of extra care. And you had to find other motivators to get them back. And I think the military really prepared me for that. The second thing is, no matter how hard of a day I think I'm having, no matter how much paperwork is on my desk or how many people want to have a conversation, every day is still significantly easier than even the easiest day I had in the military. And so it doesn't matter how hard things get. It just, this is easy. The job I have right now is probably the easiest job I've ever had in my life. But to people who don't come from these backgrounds, right? Yeah. And they may struggle in these areas, but we had to learn how to tolerate and process stress at a level that most people in the commercial world don't. And the last one is just the ability to talk to leadership. Fortunately on a submarine, I had to talk with, all ranks. I had when I was a senior chief, I had the brief admirals. I had lots of panel interviews for qualifications. And so that nervousness that most people have when speaking to important people, right, is just something that came naturally. And that soft skill is something that you really can't put a value on, because you will be instantly set apart from everybody else that you work with who had never served.
So you spoke a lot about leadership. What experiences in the Navy directly impact you the most as in your new role of leadership at KPMG?
Again, it comes down to understanding how to motivate and lead people. So, I was a leading chief. Before that, I was a leading petty officer. I had, anywhere from, 4 to 5 starting off, all the way through to becoming a department senior chief and having 95 people in my department that I had to lead and understand where they are with qualifications, understanding where they were with the watch bills, personal lives going on, when people were having families, and whether or not you could figure out that time off, and taking it all in stride. I think the most powerful leadership skill that I've learned that came from the military was the ability to accept bad news. How many of you on a daily basis, you get bad news of something, whether you're on deployment or you get extended, or you think you're going one place and end up going someplace else. And we just have to take the news and move forward. And the ability to do that and find solutions to alleviate problems and blockers that your team has is some of the strongest things of leadership.
Did your role in the Navy directly go with your role now at KPMG, like with cybersecurity and IT? Was that just like an easy crossover, or did you have to gain new skills through that transition to what you're doing now?
It was directly related to what I did, because I ended up transitioning to being a submarine IT. I did IT as a collateral duty for a long time while I was in the Navy. And there was a lot of crossover. The biggest difference, though, is what they value in the civilian world. So in the military, you value qualifications and standards and your ability to meet the expectations of your local units or commands. In the civilian world, it's a lot about what credentials you have. similar but very different. And so having to go get your CISSP, or go get your certified ethical hacker if you're in the IT cybersecurity space. Those are just expectations, baseline expectations of the function, right? Not that there are things that set you apart from other people who don't have them. That's the minimum barrier to entry. And that's vastly different than what it is in the military, where you show up and you qualify. Once you're qualified, now you've raised your station. That isn't that way. And if you want to get into leadership in the civilian world, you end up having to get your degree. I was enlisted, so I didn't have a degree until I left the military, and I didn't want people to think anything or have my options limited. And so I ended up going back to school, or going to school, getting my undergraduate, getting my master's degree, and moving forward.
What was the moment when you realized, all right, you're going to transition out of the Navy and go into a civilian career? Was there like a certain moment where you're like, okay, I'm not going to go as a career now Navy. I'm going to take my skills within it and apply it to something in civilian?
It was, but I guess in my case, it was very unexpected. You don't see a whole lot of 14-year, veterans who are E8s selected for, a commission that decide to separate. They're out there, but they don't. In my world, it all happened very quickly. July 4th of 2018, I had something that went off my heart, and I had a disagreement with medical on a course of treatment. And as I'm sure we've all been in that situation, it was, nope, you listen, you do what we want you to do, and we're going to get you back operational again. And I just sat down with my wife and my family and was like, I don't want to do that. And so I just, over a weekend, made the decision that it's time for me to leave. And I just so happened to have my end of obligated service was in December of that same year. And I just decided to separate instead of going through with the medical transition they wanted me to go through and for my heart. And so mine's unique, I suppose.
We got a question from Marshall. Marshall, go ahead. I see your hand up. Just take yourself off mute. There you go.
All right. Hey, Brian. First and foremost, thanks for coming. Second, it's nice to know that we have another guy who's also in the fire direction type deal, because I'm also in the Army, I'm a fire direction specialist, so kind of deal with the same thing you did and stuff like that. And I want to say, I think you answered my question already, because I was wondering, like, how did it go for you transitioning from a fire direction specialist, or I think you said tech in a way, going into IT and stuff. So I was wondering, like, did you need like certifications, or did you just just go straight in?
No, you need certifications. And the best thing I can tell you is don't wait. As soon as you make the decision, it's time that you want to transition. You can't wait. You have to just go do. And if you want it separating, there's some financial impacts that you have to get through, right? There's a difference between what you get paid right now, which sounds like it's really low until you take into account some of the tax advantages and healthcare costs, and getting those certifications, getting those, getting a degree or starting a degree if you can while you're still in, and just putting in the effort will make your transition significantly easier. If you wait until you're out before you start, it's a challenge. And I've seen a lot of transitioning service members have that challenge because they think that everything is going to be fine and they'll find another job, and they will, but it's harder.
Brian, is there anything that you miss about the Navy? And if so, what do you miss most about your time served?
The singular sense of being, right? It doesn't matter where you came from, right? You had a sense of purpose that was the same as everybody else. And I touched on this earlier, right? It was mission accomplishment, go home. And that you can't put a price on that purpose, right? That everyone is here to accomplish this. because what you'll experience is everyone's at work to make money. And there's a significantly different aspect, even if you join the military because you didn't have a whole lot of opportunity and you were broke. And that was me. I was an 18-year-old coming from foster care. I had no future. I had been to jail. And, it was either join the military or go down the same path of crime as the rest of my foster care, family went through. And so I fully understand.
Yeah.
But in the end, when you're in a unit, when you're doing a mission, when you're training, when you're trying to accomplish something, everyone's trying to accomplish the same thing. You won't have that again in the civilian world. It doesn't matter how good your company is. It doesn't matter how much family it is. You won't have that. And I honestly miss that sense of purpose and camaraderie that I had while I was in the Navy.
We got a question from Nick. Nick, go ahead.
First, I appreciate you coming on here, Brian, sharing your story. You're pretty much a unicorn, right? You're well on your way to E10, right? You're killing it. Get out, jump into the private sector, and you're a director in a pretty competitive space right now. My question to you is, for us, I've been doing cybersecurity 20 years, more in the governance and compliance space of it. And with, obviously the buzzword right now, AI this, AI that, right? With that on the rise, what advice do you have for future practitioners that are entering the field right now?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And it might be a little bit of a lengthy answer, so I apologize for that in advance, Matthew. There's no good way to answer that quickly. The first part is that you really need to make sure that you're not scared to take on new things. If you are that person in the technology space where you're not scared to do new things and you're willing to put yourself out there and put your name on the line and believe in yourself and your ability to bring things together, this industry in the IT cybersecurity workforce will be your playground. I got out. I was an ISSO to begin with. But I wasn't scared. I just did things. And so I became an ISSM. I became a CISO, and then I became a CIO for another small company. And then when I came over here to KPMG, it was my first leave a big company, leave a small company, go to a big company experience. But that same mentality is why I've been successful here. I actually just coming out of a promotion, about to be promoted to the global clouds platforms leader for KPMG. So I'll own the relationships with this, incredibly large company with Microsoft and Google and AWS and OpenAI. And the success really isn't because I'm of any kind of native intelligence. It's purely because I wasn't scared to put myself out there and I believed in my ability to succeed. All of you should have the same thing, right? Because you've been able to find success in areas where a small fraction of the population could actually find success. And so, while you may be in a room and people may have been doing this for a long time, they don't have your attitude, they don't have your commitment, they don't have your work ethic. Leverage those things above everything else and everyone will notice. That's a fact. The second thing is for AI. It doesn't matter what industry you're in right now. If you're not learning how to utilize AI to the greatest extent possible, you're going to be disadvantaged. It doesn't matter what you're going into. AI is changing the world from a capabilities perspective. There's a lot of fear out there about it replacing jobs. I don't have that fear at all. I don't think any of you should have that fear of it replacing your job. The only way it's going to replace you is if you don't adopt it, if you don't use it, if you don't get comfortable and familiar with how it is that it can make you more efficient and more productive and less work. Eliminate the mundane and maximize your creativity. That's what AI is going to unlock for you. And you have to figure it out, especially if you're in the technology space. A quick example of how I used AI that seems simple to me right now, but kind of blew people's minds in my legal department is creating AI controls and being able to go through and create new governance standards for the organization based off of what all the legislation is. I had to evaluate the European AI Act, the ISO 42001, all these different standards. Okay. And if I had to do that manually, it would have taken me months. I was able to accomplish that by writing a custom agentic AI script in 6 hours. And people, couldn't believe how fast that was able to get accomplished to the level of fidelity and accuracy that we got it there. But meanwhile, I just got to do other things while this agent ran in the background. So learn to use it. It's really important, and it's going to change your life if you get really good at it.
Would you say that it's evening the playing field on certain things? If you could, like, if you learn AI, you basically become a coder, become a graphic designer now, or at first you didn't have those skill sets?
Yes, AI makes you as capable as you want to be and can dream to be. I wasn't a software engineer by trade, but I understood how to build things. So I learned what it takes to build enterprise level things and didn't focus on the mundane of actually putting fingers on keyboards to write code. And I've built, monolithic applications, microservice applications. I've built robots and did C++ programming. And I don't know how to write a single line of code, but I know how to come up with ideas and I know how to prompt AI. And if you can learn those two skills, you'll be unstoppable in this world.
Awesome. Do you have any resources where people can go learn those skills AI at the moment off the top of your head?
Honestly, I would use AI to learn AI, and it sounds like crazy. It sounds crazy, but go get a $20 subscription to OpenAI. Go get a $20 subscription to Claude through Anthropic. Use both of those, and then ask it to explain concepts to you, right? And then tailor that to your level of understanding. If it's explaining things, you can say, hey, dumb that down a little bit and give it to me at a more basic level. I'm not at that level of understanding yet. And if you turn on the voice versions from your phone, right, when you're traveling, when you're in your car, you could just be learning these concepts of how to use AI from AI telling you how to do it. And that's so immersive that you'll pick it up real fast. And then it's just this ridiculous snowball of capability.
Thank you for that. That's awesome. Nick Vidal, I saw your hand up a couple times. Did you have a question again?
Yeah, most of my questions, though, are honestly going to be more on the cybersecurity questions. And I don't want to, bore the group out like I always do. I just get super excited when people come in and, are talking AI or cybersecurity and all these things. So, because my question was going to be more geared towards because you're in a very high position, do you see that companies are prepared to safeguard it securely right now? Because, a lot of the stuff is more managing like web servers or databases. And I don't necessarily think that we have the infrastructure safely yet for that. Or am I like way off?
No, you'd be surprised. The level of scrutiny is different, but the requirements are the same. Every day we find another third-party system or supplier that is getting hacked or having some type of incident or breach. And so civilian companies, while they took a long time to get on board, they're the same. And so, you likely understand the highest and most stringent requirements right now. Your problem will honestly be figuring out where those actually matter in the civilian world, not necessarily the concepts of securing them. Instead of having to go through ridiculous, RMF and 3,000 different control attributes and STIGs and all that stuff, you don't have to do those things in the civilian world to be successful. And a lot of those things are automated through tools. And so, it's not as hard as the military has made it for you, but that's going to be a common thing. Life in the civilian world is not as hard as the military likely made it for you. So you're way more equipped than you may feel right now.
Awesome. Brian, let's go back to your transition from the Navy into civilian. You had the heart issue, and then they recommended something. So it's kind of abrupt, like, oh, now I have to look for possibly a new career. What was that transition like? Did you feel like you had the resources that you needed while getting out? I mean, I know they have like a TAPS class, but for me, that wasn't enough information. It was a fire hose information in 3 days. I left there with my head spinning. Luckily I found Seven Eagle Group. But how was it for you at that time?
Oh, I got almost no resources, and the submarine force is very much, they're there to support you 100% when you're part of the crew, and then especially if you're a senior enlisted, who they want you to go be a chief of the boat and all that stuff, and you're signed to separate out. You get they move on to where they feel they need to prioritize their resources. So I got very little help transitioning out, and I didn't have, I didn't even know to look for a group like Seven Eagle Group when I was transitioning. The hardest thing for me is understanding finances in the civilian world, right? Because no one really prepares you for that. TAP doesn't prepare you. People who are in the military can't prepare you. You think that you're going to get this high-paying job, right? And that it sounds good on paper because the numbers to numbers sounds great. I was at E8. I got offered $125,000 a year job, and I took a pay cut, right? And you don't realize how. But when 100% of your income's taxed, when you don't get medical for free and dental for free, and you have a family, I lost 20% of a tax benefit, and I had to pay $1,600 a month for healthcare for my family. Those things don't add up real quick, and you don't realize it. And so the biggest advice I can give you is understand how the finances are going to change when you separate, because it will change your whole world.
What would you say the biggest challenge that you faced during the transition process was?
Eliminating my military lingo. So you can imagine the close-knit community being on a submarine. I never served with females. It was all male. So you can imagine some of the phrases and terminology that I might have used that you probably use in your units and your divisions and areas today. And there are things that I said every day in the military that I didn't think twice about, that I said when I was a civilian, and I didn't realize it was a problem until I had another transition service members like, hey, what do you mean by that when you say that? And I sat there and thought for a second, and I was like, oh my God, I should not have been saying that as much as I've been saying that, and I apologize. And that was the hardest thing for me. You learn one vernacular, one way of speaking, and then that drastically changes and becomes quite unacceptable in the civilian world very fast.
No doubt about it. If you had to go back in time and advise your younger self, is there anything you would have done differently in your transition process?
I think that I would have networked with the military community faster, because there are so many opportunities in the civilian world of like who and the military network, the veteran network, is just incredibly large. And when you're out there and you're giving back and you're speaking and you're helping other people, and you go to your different chapters, your local chapters, and it sounds like it's a lot of work, and it sounds like I'm not in the Navy you call people diggets when they were like really, really into being a sailor, right? And you're transitioning out, you don't want to be that person, but I'll tell you, you meet people all up and down different areas, different spots and companies, and all it takes is one good impression most of the time, and you can have a job, or you can move up, or you can go to a different thing very, very quickly. And that is something that nobody else except the veteran is going to have, right? No one has that capability. people have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to Ivy League schools for the same network that you're going to have on day one.
Yeah. It's great. You got a community like this, Seven Eagle, where we have, thousands of people passing through, community, hundreds a day in the academy. It's great. So in your transition, you mentioned going to school and getting your master's. Is that what you initially did after the Navy, is go right to school, or were you already doing that while in the Navy?
No, I did it right when I got out. I did competency-based education programs. So I did my first degree from Capella University, and then I did my master's degree from Western Governors University. And I got my undergraduate degree because you really can't get into management unless you have a degree, right? That's just a standard law that you should just assume is going to happen. So because I was going to transition into leading people and to get into executive leadership, I got my degree as fast as I possibly could. And getting a degree at a competency-based program is just like getting a qualification in the military. You have to go do these things and submit these competencies, and then you can get a degree. So I went from having no school, right, barely a high school education, to having my undergraduate done in 18 months. And then because of the way the program worked, and then after I got my undergraduate, I didn't have to get a master's degree. It's helped, but I only got it probably because of ego. I got really offended when another more senior person than me said, if you're as good as you say you are, where's your master's degree to show it? And I was like, okay. So to prove a point, I went to Western Governors University and got my master's degree in 60 days. Right. So it's, and no one ever questioned anything ever again. And those things are only possible through these competency-based education programs. That's it. You can go as fast as you are willing to put the effort into. And I did it with a full-time job, with wife and 3 kids, right? And just singularly focused with determination. And all of you have been there. All of you have been in that position where you had to dig in deep and figure out where to get that motivation to accomplish whatever mission you were in. Your success in the civilian world is going to be the exact same way.
So after school, what were some of the jobs you had leading up to finally getting with KPMG?
I was an ISSO or ISSM to begin with, at a small defense industrial based company, doing modeling and simulation. I got to build video games for soldiers, sailors, Marine, and airmen. Everything from doing something I was used to, which is shooting torpedoes from a submarine, to launching aircraft on an aircraft carrier, to making the weapons training systems, to the little laser guns and the weapons that you use in the Marines and using in the Army. I worked for the company who made those, and I'm sorry, some of them are really bad, but some of them are pretty good in the grand scheme of things. And then from there, I went and worked for the Army on the Geolitic program, doing more security engineering, because I like building things more than I like documenting them. And so I just kind of went over into doing that. Then I got to work at my first civilian company, even though it really wasn't civilian. It was still defense industrial base, building the Army Unclassified Network, C-Army. So I got to work with Microsoft and figure out how to build a network that is CUI compliant, and then duplicate that into their secret Microsoft cloud networks. And then from there, I ended up landing at KPMG for the most part, as just the special advisor for security. I had a brief stint where I left, and I actually got to run a baseball technology company, which was kind of just a random, crazy second thing that I did. But I wanted to leave everything to do with the defense industrial base, and that was a great opportunity to make that transition. It's hard, and it's hard because of the golden handcuffs. If you have a clearance, your clearance is worth a lot, right? That clearance is probably a $40,000 to $50,000 premium over every other job that you can get in the same industry. And so I had an opportunity that I could get paid without taking a pay cut and go do something interesting. So I went and built, ball tracking systems for Major League Baseball and Division I baseball to track them. And so I got to go to Yankee Stadium and put technology in the bullpen right there at Yankee Stadium.
Are you a
When
Yankee fan?
I am not a Yankee fan, but it's still cool to say that I got to work and put technology in Yankee Stadium. That was pretty fun. And so that was good stuff. And then I went back to KPMG as where I am now, and again, head of global cloud platforms.
Very cool. For those of the veterans that don't know about KPMG, can you tell us a little bit about the company, what your day-to-day looks like within it, how someone would possibly seek out a job within the company?
Yeah, so KPMG is one of the four largest. It is the smallest of the four largest consulting and advisory firms in the world. And so there are 148 member firms in every country that all make up this network of entities that do, tax audits. And, they actually do taxes for like the monarchy in the UK and for other very, very large organizations. They're tax company. And then they also do advisory solutions. And, the US has a huge practice of doing, cybersecurity audits, implementation, and maintenance and sustainment and those kind of things. And so that's what they do. I work at the international level. So my day-to-day is working with teams all around the world. I could be talking with someone in Australia, China, India, Germany, Hungary. It doesn't matter. Teams all over the world. And my job is to make sure that the company's cloud platform can meet their needs in the way that a cloud service provider or a managed service provider would. And so my day-to-day is honestly talking with a lot of people. It's solving problems. It's cutting through some of the nonsense and noise to just get projects on track and with solutions. And so that's my day-to-day almost every day.
Awesome. So most of our veterans are 3 to 6 months out from transitioning out. What kind of advice would you give them? What's like most important? What should they be focusing on from this 3 to 6 month mark for getting into a position like yourself?
Honestly, LinkedIn is probably one of the most powerful resources that you could use right now. You may think that you're just a voice amongst a whole lot of people, but put the time into it, right? Interact with people, right? Create meaningful interactions by giving opinions. It doesn't matter if you think your opinion's valuable or not. Provide them. Create discourse. If you do that, you're going to build your brand. The first thing any employer of note is going to do when they look you up is they're going to look at your LinkedIn and they're going to see how you've interacted with people. That's the number one thing that they do, right? Your resume is something that an automated system is going to present that no one's going to read. I'm just going to be honest with you, right? But they're going to look you up on LinkedIn and they're going to see how you respond. And if you are just silent on LinkedIn, you can represent yourself in no way, shape, or form, right? So you better hope that you either know somebody at that company or that your resume is just written so well that it knocks someone off their feet and they want to just figure out who is on the other side of that piece of paper. But your LinkedIn is your brand. It's your profile. Get out there and interact, build a following. You don't have to be a social media influencer. I'm not telling you to do that, right? But just interact and talk with people, and you'll be crazy how many doors will open up. And I'll give you an example. I did this on Discord. There was this community around CMMC on Discord, and I knew how to do things inside Microsoft 365 that I could give back to the community. And so I was just giving people answers and responses and technical capabilities there and just help people. And I ended up getting offered 2 different jobs just from helping people in a Discord chat with a couple hundred people. It's amazing how much that brand will support you.
Amazing resource there, and just networking in general, right?
Absolutely.
Nick, I see your hands raised. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, real quick before you have to jump off and go run and do 500 other things, I'm sure. Who are you listening to right now? Any top podcasters you like? I know I listen to Darknet Diaries. Any good reads? Any suggestions? You're like, no, I listen to myself.
No, I don't listen to myself. Honestly, where I'm at right now, I have to interact with people and attend conferences and go do all that. That honestly, continuing education is something that's now pretty native in my job. I'm fortunate there, and I'm actually very happy that's the case, because I'm finally getting some time back with my family, and not doing that. But I'm also, I guess I'm kind of a super nerd when it comes to learning. And so if I want to know about something at a deep level, I honestly just have long conversations with AI about topics so that I can understand them while I'm driving in the car. So that it's led by my interest in what's going on there. I do like listening to interviews with like big Fortune 10 CEOs talking about leadership, talking about what they did to build their teams, listening to people like Mark Cuban about investments and understanding finances at a deeper level, about like portfolio management and things like that. So that's how I've been spending my time, but a lot less on podcasts, more on very targeted research that I needed to learn and understand, so that I could be more successful and have conversations with people at the levels that I would need to every day. I grew up as a poor kid from nowhere, right? So it's weird sometimes when you're talking to very, very wealthy people, very successful people who may have had a easier time coming up in the world, but you have to find a way to relate. And sometimes that's its own education, is finding ways to relate to those people so you can carry meaningful conversations.
Right on. Brian, I mean, we're closing in on some time here. I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing your story and your journey with our community. It's been fantastic. I know you've definitely helped out at least Nick, but I'm sure a whole community of people on today. Is there anything you want to leave us with? Any closing remarks you want to share?
Yeah, the best thing I can say is that even though it's relatively cliche, right, I have found that it's the most important thing, is to just believe in your abilities, believe in what it is that you have gone through to get to where you're going. You're successfully completing one of the most difficult and challenging things that is in the world. And even if you had what somebody believes is an easy military job, maybe you worked in a supply room, right? It doesn't matter. Your day-to-day was significantly more challenging than almost everybody that's in the civilian world today, right? Unless they were a firefighter, a police officer, or a lineman, or some of those very, very fragmented jobs, your job will be easier to handle every single day. You have the skills, you have the capability, and your potential is only limited by your belief in yourself. So go out there, make a difference, change the world, and take control of your own destiny. That's what I would leave you with.
Wow, that's a powerful statement. Guys, I'm going to drop Brian's LinkedIn here in the chat. Please go connect with him. Got any questions? Now's your time, or connect with Brian and ask him there. But Brian, thank you so much. That was